But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. Today is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. It's episode 51. My name is Rob St. Clair from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto. Oh my goodness, Everett, did we have a weekend? And without further ado, I don't want to make the people wait any further to jump into what was probably the most ridiculous weekend of Italian volleyball I have ever seen. Take it away.
Hands down. I mean, we can't even get into what happened in the Champions League yet, because the Italian SuperLega men's this year has been nuts. If you look at the standings, it has been absolutely ridiculous. Perugia, and then everyone else. And this weekend was the most unhinged weekend, not only of the season, but that I have ever seen in men's SuperLega volleyball. This is not a league that's known for its parity, but that's all we got this weekend. Let's kick it off on Saturday. Now, Rob, when we talked about this matchup last week, we knew that there was a potential in this one. Verona started as both your and I's as one of our favorites. Hey, they could maybe upend the order, right? They've got a 7-footer on the right side. They've got a scoring champ on the left side. They've got one of the most dynamic offensive talents in the Nomura Keita also on the left side. You've got Gord Perrin there, but they have done nothing but stink since those first few weeks.
That's true.
It came down to this week's match where they got three-donged by Toronto without Tommaso Stefani, who came out in the first set after scoring only 1 point. Yes, Oleg Antonov did make it look like he was 2014 out there, and he was huge with 18 points. Yes, EFL, Eric Effin Lepke was on his game again. He only scored 14, but he had like a 60% hitting percentage, and his efficiency was super efficient. But man, what is Verona doing out there? We saw Bernardi go down a couple weeks ago. Is Stoichev has to be the next. There's no other coach where like Thomas Jayski is on the record saying that he's the worst coach he's ever played for. Like Osmani Wantahena, when he signed with Lube, had one clause in his contract that Stoichev could not coach for this team. How is this guy still in the Superlega? Like, what is going on? Like what are we doing out here? Verona is in a free fall because of this. They are now out of the playoff picture. Oh no. They're out of the playoff picture. But man, an absolutely massive win for Toronto this week to put them up. Well, they thought they put themselves out of the relegation window, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But still, Verona is in an absolute free ball. They need to learn out how to pass the ball. Rock Mozic is getting ready to sign somewhere else because it is not going good in Verona. That was the first one. That one, we even kind of talked about it. We could have predicted. Move on to the next one. The first game on Sunday morning. This one was pure beauty to my eyes. It's the second win for Monza over Lube Civitanova this year, and it was a Canadian domination. First and foremost, our favorite Ronnie Cuban Spike, the wannabe by Stephen Marr, was out there and scored 26 points, ripped 4 aces, including 3 to win the match. He was absolutely unreal. On the other side, Lube looked bad. They're still young, but man, like what is going on with this Lube team? You've got Gabby Garcia Fernandez, who's leading the team in scoring, but at a 30% efficiency, that's not going to be good enough. And on the other side of the net, we talked about Canadian domination. Arthur Schwartz was out there, 10 for 22 and 13 points. That's like almost 40 points to the two Canadians on Monza. With that win and with the Verona loss, Monza moves up into 8th place right now. Absolutely massive. Lube is in a free fall. I don't know what to make of this team. Yes, they're the only team to take Perugia to 5 sets this season, but other than that, they've been lukewarm at best. Them defending their title is going to be an absolute stretch. Next, let's move on to Modena versus Milano. Now, Modena, we're going to talk about them a lot this show, and not in the good light. This is not going to be a good episode if you're a Modena fan. 3-1 for Milano. Now, first and foremost, I think Milano has figured it out. I think that outside trio of Melgarejo, Ishikawa, and Patry, they're making Pablo Porro look good. You know how hard that is to do? You're making Pablo Porro look good, and you're making me wish that we had a Badapur middle. Milano's unreal at the net. 21 team blocks.
That's ridiculous.
Say it with me. 21 team blocks. That's
Crazy.
disgusting.
7 for Lozère. Amazing.
7 for Lozère. Absolutely just unreal. Milano, they're making me believe. They beat Lube in the Italian Cup recently. They're undefeated in the year of 2023. This is the team that, was kind of hot and cold in 2022. So far in 2023, it's looking pretty good. Then we move over to Trentino versus Cisterna, which, to be honest, I don't know what to make of this Cisterna team. They're hot and they're cold. They're good and they're bad. It's like a Katy Perry song out there. I really don't know what is going on. Peter Durlich, 37 points. That's a season high in the SuperLega. He set the record. 60 attempts, but still 34 for 60.
That's amazing.
That's pretty damn nasty.
Amazing.
That F.A. Byram, he's coming back, looking pretty good out there. He was 14 for 26 for 16 points as well. And I mean, it's not like Trentino didn't have a good game as well. Micheletto dropped 27. But man, this Cisterna team, to me, they're kind of like a freight train. They take a little bit time to get going, but once they're going, they're just chugging along. And when they have that momentum, with Peter Durlich has that momentum, you got the team playing around them like that, they can cause serious damage. This isn't the first time they've upset a team this year. Trentino did have a little bit of struggles. Matej Kaczynski, 4 for 16. He had like a 2%, efficiency. It was really, really bad. Oh, there's one stat that I did forget to talk about in the Modena versus Milano game. This may have to be the worst game I've ever seen from Irvin Ingapeth. He was a minus 231 efficiency on this day. Minus 231. He had like 7 errors and got blocked 8 times. It was a bad day for Ingapeth. And let's just be honest, it was a bad day all around. I'm starting to question. Rob, last week I sent you a list of like my top 10 setters to make a video about it. I think I might have to drop Bruno down some more based off of what I've seen over the past couple of weeks, because it has not been good. But we talk about all these games and all of these. One stands at the top for me, and that is Siena keeping their relegation or not getting relegation hopes alive by taking Piacenza. Piacenza, who last week we were talking about, hey, this is a team that can make a run. This is a team that, you know what, they got rid of their dead weight in their coach, and this is a team that can make a run. However, I will give them a little bit on this. You have no Lucarelli. He's not even on the roster. You have no Leal. He's not out there. Luka Basic is your best outside, scoring 20 points. But this was a classic Robert Landy Simon game. Like, send him back to Lube, right? Send him somewhere where he's going to be good. He was unreal. 17 for 24, 5 blocks, 3 aces. Once again, this is another game where Robert Landy Simon has more points than attempts. Just like last year, more points than attempts.
That is ridiculous. I will never get over that.
Yeah, Yuri Romano was painful in this one. He was 3 for 20. What is it? 9 for 30.
7 errors. Ouch.
Just not good out there. But on the other side, Siena, team effort. Daniele Mazzone, or no, sorry, that's not Mazzoni. Martin Van Garderen.
That's the one.
Julio Panali.
Panali?
Panali. Right? If I 23 for 50.
Panali. You can't be giving Panali 50 balls?
23 for 50.
Oh.
All right. Martin Van Garderen, 21 for 30. He was only blocked 1 time.
That's a masterclass.
Right?
Where did that come from?
Absolutely. So not only is Piacenza in a free fall because they can't figure it out offensively, where you've got Luka Basic and Robert Landy Simon leading the way, but you're also letting Martin Van Garderen go 21 for 30. That's a little bit disgusting. Your Romano has to be better. He has to be more impactful in games that don't matter. He has to
True.
be more impactful on a regular basis, and he has to be more consistent. Otherwise, this Piacenza team is going to lose, because right now, like without Lucarelli and without Leal, they look bad. It doesn't matter if you have a middle dropping 25 points. You need to beat the worst team in the league, especially a week, especially after just beating Trentino like that. The only other game was Perugia against Padova. We don't need to talk about that one. That was a quick 3-donging by Perugia, and really that we don't. That's it. But look at these standings. Monza moves up into the playoffs. Verona drops down. Rob, sorry, I kind of took that over. What were your thoughts and feelings over this weekend's matches?
Dude, that ruled. Thank you for catching all the people up on that in such quick succession. Thank you for catching me up on that in such quick succession, because I was commentating VLA all weekend. I barely got to watch a second of volleyball live. I had to catch up on all this. The Discord was absolutely popping off as these upsets were starting to brew. Starting on Saturday with Taranto. Like, I forgot that match was even happening on Saturday, and there were people talking about a 3-donging with no Tommaso Stefani on the floor. I mean, we got to talk about that a little bit more. Big concern for Toronto, obviously, as Stephanie looks like he hurt his shoulder like decently significantly, and we'll try and figure out how long he's going to be out for. But Verona, what are we doing? Is Stoichev like trying to get fired? Come on.
They just looked bad in serve receive. And like, even when they brought in Gord, right? But I mean, like, I think from Gord's position, and I'm going to play devil's advocate because he's my boy, that, you know, it's going to be tough to come into the season like that. It's going to be tough when you spend the majority of the season on the bench. You're coming off the bench that way. Like, it's tough to come in cold. Like, at what point isn't this going to work out? And at the same time, everyone's kind of figured out Shaposhkov. So like,
yeah, that's true.
Is this just becoming Malonza, where like you're going to have like a graveyard of dead right sides? Because remember, Kedsmad Jensen is still on that roster too, and he was their savior 2 years ago. They pulled him out of school at UCLA. Might have been the worst decision of his career, because like if he had stayed at UCLA, maybe like Spirac could have done something with him. I don't know if that's going to happen on Verona's bench, and he seems to be like locked into this long-term contract too, where he's just like there to kind of like when's the last time we saw him? Shaposhkov has gotten worse since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he has.
They had to move Keita over there on the right side after starting Gord on the left, but man, there has to be alarm bells going off in Verona right now, and Stoichev needs to be feeling the heat. Like, if not, like, what are we doing?
It is ridiculous that they have fallen out of playoff position, and it is nobody's fault but their own. I mean, we were talking about them a couple of weeks ago, as they were taking good teams to 5, they were beating good teams, they were destroying bad teams the way you're supposed to, Piacenza. But now, for them to have fallen off this far, to not even be in playoff position, it might very well be a fireable offense for Stoichev. If this team doesn't make the playoffs with the amount of talent that they have, there is absolutely no way he can retain his job.
100%. And like, I mean, good riddance. Yeah. And he should just be, we need to stop. Like, another man's trash is not necessarily another man's treasure.
Thank you.
And then that's what we keep on seeing in the SuperLega, was just like, well, this guy was just fired, let's pick him up. You know,
he's a big name from when he was a player 40 years ago. Get out of here.
Like, and remember, like people in the Discord were like, well, you know, it's from his time with Trentino when he was successful with Trentino. You know who played for him in Trentino? Juan. You know who doesn't want to play for him now? Juan. That should tell you enough as it is, right? That you don't even need Tomaszewski to go on Taylor Avril's podcast to say how he's the worst coach he's ever played for to know that he's a bad coach, right? Like, do something, Verona, please. It's kind of like that meme where it's just like there's a dead animal and you kind of poke it with a stick, like, do something. That's Verona right now.
I love that. I love that analogy. I want to talk about your Canadian boy Stephen Marr a little bit more. And now there was a clear pro-Canadian tone as you talked about this match, for good reason, because I said a couple weeks ago when Monza beat Milano in that really good 4-setter, I said that might have been the best I'd ever seen Stephen Marr play. Stats alone, this is even better than that. And he was absolutely ridiculous. However, Gabby Garcia Fernandez outplayed Arthur Schwartz. I want to make that very clear. So as far as an American versus a Canadian opposite goes, Gabby had the better match, although in a losing effort. But I'm not going to take anything away from how well Stephen Marr played. I mean, the 21 for 33 with only 4 errors is amazing, plus 4 aces, 3 of them to end the match, like you said. Like, that's a masterclass. I love to see it.
Honestly, I'm just really laying into it, because as this was all going down, Ronnie was in the Discord talking about how Stephen Marr is a wannabe.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
that's
But I
insane.
mean,
He would love for anybody on Cuba to be able to play all phases of the game half as well as Stephen Marr. Sure, they can touch higher, maybe hit the ball harder, but he's a more well-rounded player than anybody on the Cuban roster, not named Robert Landy Simone. So we don't even need to get into that.
I will have to give it to Osmiel Malguereo though. He has really been coming into his own.
He's
and
awesome.
I think
He had a great year.
If there's anyone who's as close to being an all-round player for Cuba, it's him.
And what's going on with Marlon Yance? Speaking of Cubans against Stephen Marr, why is this kid, with as long as he's now been in the Italian SuperLega, this is what, third year? Why hasn't he taken that jump in consistency? That's the thing that I'm looking for. Like he'll have a great match here and there, or he'll hit 60% against a terrible team. Like I called them in against Tour in Champions League. It was the quickest hour in a shower of all time, and Yant hit like 75%. That doesn't tell me anything. Why can't he stay on the court against a mid-level Italian team like Monza?
I'm still thinking he's not all that healthy. Like we saw him at the Pan Am Cup, and he just was not moving well.
Right.
So he needs to figure that out a little bit. But you're right. That consistency isn't there, and this is why this is why we haven't really seen Yant star all that much for the Cuban national team, because I think in the head game it's just not all there. We all know the guy who's the really good athlete who loves beating up on the bad teams but fizzles out when it comes to the good teams. Addis Lagumgia. But you know what? I do think I wouldn't call it but he is doing his typical postseason, second half of the season dip down, which we can talk about in a second. But I think Yant just like whenever I've seen him in person, he just, I don't know if he has that intensity in him. Melgarejo, who's a lot just like a quieter person, you can see that like intense focus in his eyes, and the same thing with Lopez, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that just sometimes like physically he's fantastic, but he doesn't see himself as that alpha dog. If I want to go Andrew Tate style on this, not endorsing him in any way, but yeah, there's just no alpha in the eyes of Marlon Yance.
I think that is probably the right take, because you're right. You do see that fire in both Margarejo and Lopez, and even Herrera when he's not hitting the back wall every other swing. But
Alonso too.
Oh, totally. And Simone is Simone. So yeah, I mean it's nice for Cuba to have three world-class outside hitters. You don't have to play Yan if he's not producing, but that he was supposed to be a top 5 prospect in the world. He in like that tier with Mosic and Micheletto, and right now I just don't see it.
No, at the end, I'd almost put him in like the Ben Patch, Juwan Vernon Evans. Lots of talent and just not that much output.
Oof, that's I don't know if I'd go that far. This one, talking about Margarejo, I mean, Milano, man. I mean, Piazza's rescuing his job, and what I think is going on here is there's a redistribution of Milano's offense happening more towards the outside. Because Paulo Porro is so bad at setting Jean Patry, just tell him to do it less. Yuki Ishikawa can play phenomenally well on 41 attempts, which is not his game, but he's such a smart player, and you can get him the ball in weird situations and he'll make good choices. That seems to be the better option for Milano's offense. Give the outside more balls, make Porro's job easier, and tell him to do less of the thing that he sucks at the most. And unfortunately, that will give Patry less swings, and I still think that he's a world-class opposite, but you got to do what you got to do if you're Milano right now, and I think there is a little bit of shift going away from Patry in terms of number of attempts. But on the Modena side, and we'll talk about them a lot later with their CV Cup fiasco, seeing Irvin Engapet get blocked as many times as he has kills, not even including 7 unforced errors, is embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing. You know what? It's clear just the composition of this Modena team, just they haven't got it together. And I don't know what they've been doing the past few years, but they've put a lot of hope on that old duo of Bruno and Engapeth. And it's clearly not working. They're still in second place. They were in second place heading into this weekend, but I'm still not convinced by this Modena team.
They technically still are, but the drop off between Perugia and second place is just an absolute joke. Like 100%. Literally 16 points with only 6 matches left to play in the regular season, separating first from second is ridiculous. Perugia is going to wrap up the 1 seed with like 4 matches left to play, and they're going to play on the bench, and they're probably still go undefeated.
For me, there's one person I don't think that first of all, Lagunja's efficiency was like 17% in this match.
Yeah, it's the second half of the season. What do we see about him every single year? After the halfway point in the season, this is what happens.
Yeah, no, it's bad. But also, we're not talking about how Tobias Crick is nowhere to be found.
He's useless. Right? Sanguinetti is a better player, and I actually like him. I like him more, and he's Italian. So there's no reason to play Crick. He's a waste of space.
You have old man Daddy Stankovic out there who's going like 5 for 10 and adding 3 blocks. And he's a way better at like 35 years old. He's a way better option than like the 7'2" Crick. Crick needs to figure it out, get off TikTok, start going to the gym, stop being such a nepotism baby, and be better. Just be better.
Figure it out, as they say up north of the border. Figure it out. Piacenza, figure it out. I know you didn't have your outside hitters, but it's weird. You had the exact same combination of players and beat Trentino, and now you're losing to the worst team in the league. Figure it out. Yuri Romano for sure. However, keep doing what you're doing, Brizard, in terms of giving Robert Lamissimo in 24 attempts. That's what I like to see. That is obviously what he demands, and his stat line was insane. Obviously not sustainable for Siena. Martin Van Garderen is not going to hit 67% efficiency every game.
No.
Julio Pinali taking 50 swings is an absolute joke. Like,
it's an abomination, to be honest.
It's terrible. I'm glad I didn't watch this match, because any play that didn't involve Simone touching the ball probably would have made me want to just break my computer screen. So I'm thrilled I didn't watch that one. Piacenza, figure it out. Trentino, figure it out. They aren't beating the teams they're supposed to beat. Cisterna gets credit, but I mean, Trentino is slipping into that position where they're like that 4 spot right now. Let's go back to the standings. Trentino and Piacenza both right now, if they play each other in the first round, that might be a fun series, but they would go 0-9 in sets against Perugia in the semifinals. Either of those two teams.
It's weird because in December, Trentino didn't drop a set, and now coming into January of 2023, they still haven't won a match, losing to Piacenza and now Cisterna. And next week they've got Lube. So you've got 2 teams who are a little rough, but in all fairness, I look at Trentino's roster and I look at the way that team is put together, and I look at the way that team plays, and I have way more hope for Trentino. I still think Trentino's the second best team in SuperLega right now.
I simply don't know who the second best team in the SuperLega is. I legitimately have no idea. And you're
right.
I
had to pick from the mud pile, it would be Trentino.
So this weekend, you're right. Let's wrap this up in the Italian men's side by looking at this weekend. Lube versus Trentino Saturday is a banger. Monza versus Piacenza Saturday is pretty good. Verona versus Milano Sunday. I don't know. Modena versus Perugia, the top 2 teams in the league. That match probably won't be very good, to be honest, but it is the top 2 teams in the league. And then Padova
that'll be an hour and shower.
Probably. Then Padova versus Taranto. I mean, both those teams kind of got to win that game. Otherwise, you start to say the R word surrounding either one of those two.
Yeah, Taranto moves ahead of Padova in the standings based off of points, even though they have less wins than Padova. So if they could get the win over Padova this weekend, that would really cement and pad themselves a little bit from relegation, with Siena in last, Padova ahead of them, and then Toronto sitting there in 10th.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very good weekend. So 2 games Saturday, 4 games Sunday. We'll be back on next Tuesday to recap it all for sure. But there's no way it can be as ridiculous as this past weekend. This past weekend was absolutely insane. I've never seen 5 of the 6 games have crazy upsets like that. It's ridiculous.
No, we can hope, though.
We can hope. All right, shall we turn our attention to the women's side?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump over to the women.
So honestly, pretty similar on the women's side. There was some really good stuff this past weekend, and a couple upsets here and there, a couple of the impacts by some of the midseason transfers that we talked about on last week's show really starting to be felt around the league. And I think we got to start with Castelmaggiore beating Malonza. Malonza is an absolute nightmare. I mean, shout out to our researcher, Agata, who's in the chat right now, who's been doing some research for us. We know what the deal is with this team. A bunch of roller coasters. Literally the only piece of stability is Alessia Oro, and even she has her moments where a little bit of weirdness goes on. Well, let's see. I guess Castelmaggiore led 24-20 in the 4th set, had 4 match points, and Malonza came back to at least take a point. So I guess good for them. But
that's good, I guess.
I guess. I mean, they stole a point. They still can't figure out their opposite position. They still can't really figure out their outside hitter position because they've still got a lot of characters that they're trying to rotate in and out. And another good point by Agata, this is the quarterfinal matchup in the Coppa Italia that we're going to see of Casalmaggiore versus Malonza. So I think not next week, but the week after, we'll see that matchup again.
You know what? To me, when I look at this stat sheet, these numbers look like a 3-setter or a 4-setter. The fact that Stesiak is leading Malonza in points with only 16, with only 17 points, like that's bad, right? That shouldn't be happening over the course of 5 sets. You guys need to learn how to score more points.
It's because they just rotate in so many bodies, but nobody is, even when they make changes, the people that come off the bench don't play that well. It's very, very strange. It's honestly, it's kind of what I wish what Verona on the men's side would do is have a shorter leash, on their players that don't play well. And for Malonza on the women's side, I wish that they would have a longer leash. I wish that they would play a lineup and stick with it.
Yeah, just stick with something, one thing at a time, because you got so many different, like Dana Recky's getting in, Ivana Stefanovic is getting in. You got Rafael Foley in the middle. You've got Stesiak playing. You've got Jordan Thompson playing. You've got Jordan Larson playing. Just pick a roster, please.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know what? Sell some players, make some money, and pick a roster.
That's true.
Maybe it'll be a little.
It's not like they couldn't get any return on a couple of their players who are sitting the bench for them anyway. They've got to change their strategy going into this offseason. I mean, obviously, season's not over. Where are they at? Let's put the standings up. I think they're still in third by some miracle because nobody's touching Conegliano, and Scandici is clearly better than both Malonza and Novara. But this Malonza team, the way they're playing right now, I have absolutely no faith in them in the playoffs. Like, I could even see them losing to Casalmaggiore in the first round if they play them, which the way the seeds are right now, they would play them in the playoffs in addition to the Italian Cup. And I would not really be that confident on them in even winning that series. So
it's such a 180 from this Malonza team from last year. At this point in the year, they had just beaten Conegliano. They had good results in the Champions League. They had just picked up Dana Retke. They had Jordan Larson. Like, this was a team that was looking good, and we were like, oh my goodness, it's a team that could beat Conegliano in the finals. But this year, you know what? It's a 2-horse race. It's a 1-horse race with Scandici kind of playing in the wake a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And another good point about Malonza's Champions League fiasco from last week, we'll certainly talk about that because that was one that we did not expect. A couple others from this week in the LegaVolley Femminile. Firenze bounces back with a much-needed win, beating Bergamo 3-2. Ofelia Malinov makes her Firenze debut. Just last week, Everett, we were talking on the show, talking about transfers, and the Malinov thing, which we were talking like as if it was confirmed. At that point, it was not. It hadn't even been signed, sealed, delivered. Sure enough, it's in the last 7 days, Malinov officially transfers, starts for Firenze, and they beat Bergamo, who's a playoff team right now.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the standings right now, there is not much separating. Like, Firenze is sitting in 11th, but with 16 points. Casalmaggiore is in 6th, only 9 points ahead of them with 25. There's not that much separation, and I'm really going to be interested to see how Malinov can affect that Firenze team, because that Firenze team is a team that I think has underperformed this year based on the roster that they have. So I could see them making a late season still pretty further along in the men's league than we are in the women's league because of how late we started due to the World Championships.
Right.
So
and they have more teams.
And there's more teams, absolutely. So there's still plenty of time. Like, there's still over 10. There's still a dozen weeks left in the regular season now. So there's so much can happen. Basically, there's only 3 games that separate 6th to 11th. So much could happen in that time in that space. And I think that right now for Firenze to be getting Malinov, that's absolutely massive. And for maybe it helps Britt Herboth a little bit, and they could spark something moving forward.
Yeah, it looks like they were a little bit more balanced. I mean, Sylvia Nwakalor had 52 attempts, which is unusually high, especially for a team with Britt Herbots on it, who had 60. And I made a mistake, by the way. Malinov didn't start the match. She started 2 of the sets, but didn't start set 1. So she played a decent amount for her first match in with less than a week in a new team. What's funny is that she's coming over from Scandici. I think Monty made this point in the Discord. Scandici is 15 kilometers away from downtown Florence. Like she probably didn't even have to move apartments. Must be nice.
Oh, that is pretty awesome. I mean, at the same time, like Sylvia Nwakalor was a top 5 scorer back in the 2021 season and scored over 400 points that season. So that was one of my reasons, having Nwakalor on the right side and Britt Herbots on the left side. That's two hitters that can handle a lot of load. That's why I thought they were going to be doing really, really well. Now we're going to be able to see if the injection of Malinov into that lineup can help release them a little bit, because you have two bazookas on the opposite, kind of almost a lot like Verona. If you had Rakhmozic on the left, either Keita or Sapochnikov on the right, that's the situation there that could be really good if you have a setter who can handle both of those athletes who require a big load.
Yeah, that's true. Moving down the list, Conegliano beats Busto Orsizio 3-1. Pretty competitive match from Busto, but they're not going to beat Isabel Hawk as good as she was. Kelsey Robinson-Cook was really good as well. Loveth Omaruyi was the best player for Busto, who played for Conegliano last year, so that was good for her. And one of Agata's notes I thought was funny. She says, the English commentator on Volleyball World was so terrible that most people decided to switch the game with Italian commentary from the second set on. He could not get players' name right, called Volos Carraro all the time, called Isabel Hawk Hook or Hulk, was so annoying, and gave us classics such as Cook overcooked that one or Far went too far. Oh my God, I'm glad I didn't watch that game. Sheesh.
My water bottle was empty, but I just had to sip on my other beverage behind it.
I'm
keep my mouth shut during that one.
Boy, are we going to have some fun ranting about commentators this weekend? We could have entire full-time jobs just complaining about how bad commentary is in Volleyball World for the most part.
I've been thinking about like screen grabbing some of it and just making another channel and just going off and starting to rant about it.
I think we should. If anybody out there, let's task the people. If you find a terrible clip of commentary, clip it and send it to us. We will make a montage.
And that includes, because I've seen people commentating in the Discord and being like, I love it when it's the most exciting play of the game and the commentator isn't saying a word. Or when you've got, the commentator doesn't say anything for 5-6 points in a row.
So bad.
Or even better, when you have two commentators and the English guy is making the knowledgeable American, not the one in front of me, obviously, looking really good by being like, what do you think about this? Yeah. That was one of my favorite quotes in the summer. I may be reaching up a little bit, but yeah, if you see bad commentary, clip it out, send it to us, please.
Yeah, well, let's start taking some action on that and creating a montage of just how embarrassing it all is. And if I make any stupid mistakes on commentary, clip me out too, please. Include me when I mess something up. All right, coming up this weekend in the Italian Women's League, Scandici versus Novara is good. Bergamo versus Malonza is kind of good. Castelmaggiore versus Cuneo is pretty good. Even Vallafolia versus Conegliano is at least watchable now that Vallafolia has Annie Drews, but Conegliano is obviously going to win. Here we go. There's people complaining about commentators in the chat. The commentator on Milano Modena called Lagumdija. That's pretty bad. I hate when phone rings in the middle of the game for a commentator. That's incredibly unprofessional. Yeah, let's clip these things out. Let's start making a montage.
Please.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, man. I don't doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
unbelievable.
I don't even want to. I'm about to walk off right now.
Yep. We don't need to get any further into it. Let's move on. we got plenty more going on. Let's talk about the Plusliga. We got to catch up on the Plusliga. Let's see. A couple headlines. One that our guy Adanos put in the Discord today. Taylor Averill's stats on the year in the Plusliga are even more ridiculous than I even knew that they were. He has 196 attacking attempts this season, and he has single-digit errors. He's hit 4 balls out of bounds, and he's been blocked 4 times the entire year. He's at 65% efficiency on the season, which is insane. And when Olsztyn beat Zawiercie on Sunday, they swept one of the best teams in the league. I think Averill, he won the MVP of the match at 91% efficiency. And I know Zawiercie didn't have Juros Kovacevic. That's an important asterisk. But Olsztyn is hot. They beat Katowice again today as well. So they're getting hot at the right time after a pretty rough start to the year. And again, that team is fun, just kind of like we thought that they were going to be.
to me, it just kind of further shows like where was Averill at the Olympics last year, right? Where was like I know he was taking the summer off from the national team, but this is a guy who just he maximizes himself in so many areas, right? And does further than that. Like physically, he's out there. The way that he thinks the game is out there as well. And I'm continually impressed about how he pushes himself. And I mean, he's just been inching his way up, and I'm sure he's got a be even better contract waiting for him after this season as well.
I think so too. There are people talking in the Discord today about maybe even Zaxa tries to go after him because the future of the Emerald blocker position is uncertain, and he's having an amazing year, and they kind of have flexibility with foreigners, so that would be a massive contract. He's also a must-watch social media follow, obviously. If you're not already following
Hands
Taylor
down.
Averill, you're seriously missing out. And the point in the chat I was just about to bring up, he hit a pipe. He got set a pipe. He was playing
That was
D in
gross.
position 6 after serving, and he killed it, but it did go off the tape, so I expect better out of him next time. Elsewhere in the Plus Liga, Resovia convincingly atop the standings right now. They pretty easily three dong Skra Belkov on Sunday, and Bartosz Bednors made his debut for Zaxa. He didn't. I don't know if he actually saw the court or not.
No, yeah, he was on the roster, but he didn't play.
Yeah, he warmed up, and then I was making fun of Eric Shoji because they Zaxa used Bartosz Bednors for all their marketing material. Like, oh, come watch our shiny new toy, and he went and hitting lines and then didn't see the court. So. Zaxa beat Nissa anyway in a derby match 3-0, so that was pretty impressive without Bednors, but I expect him to get into the mix, especially looking about a week from now. They play Trentino in a big Champions League game. I would not be at all surprised if Bednors started that one.
Especially the way, like, so close up the top of the Plus Liga, right? They're only a couple of games behind. Like, they're only 7 points behind Resovia and a few spots back. You inject Bednors, who's can be an offensive weapon. Into that lineup, and I think good things can happen. I honestly don't know what to call. It's so close in the Plus League, especially amongst those top 4 teams between Rezhov, JW, Zavierci, and Zaxa. Playoffs are going to be sick. That's all I have to say.
They are, yeah. JW is struggling. Zavierce is even kind of struggling a little bit. Zaxa just got reinforcements, and Resovia's playing great. So it's literally anybody's league. Gdansk is having a good year. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Coming up this week, I'm scanning. Zaxa versus Gdansk is a pretty good game. Yashemsky versus Stalnissa is actually kind of a good game. Varshava is playing a lot better. They've got Skra this weekend, so good stuff there. Check out the Luke Lublin, who's super hot, plays Zavierce, who they beat a couple weeks ago. Who knows?
Okay, Lublin is just sitting on the outside of the playoffs right now. They've got the exact same record as Nisa, but they're still 3 points behind. Who knows? Man, I love the Plus Liga. I think we need to watch it way more.
Yeah, Plus Liga is awesome. All right, before we move on to some CEV competition, because this is something we got to spend a lot of time on, both men's and women's. Everett, show the people the T-shirt that you're wearing right now.
Absolutely, check
God,
it.
it's
Honestly,
beautiful.
guys, I've been wearing it all day. It's so comfy. It's so comfy. It just feels good as soon as you put it on. It hugs your skin nicely. Makes the arms look good. Been going to the gym a little bit. You can't really tell. We'll get there. But yeah, this is our 9x9 squared series. We got it in a crew neck. We've got it in a hoodie. We've got it in t-shirts. Plenty of colors too. I think I've actually got the hoodie right here. I wear it most weeks, but it's a little toasty in my house. Like, check it out. We got a nice maroon color. I wore this to the U of T versus McMaster game this weekend. Everyone thought I was a McMaster fan. I'm a McMaster fan when they're playing LBSU. Otherwise, I'm completely neutral. So I'll have to switch it up again for next week. But yeah, head over to thatvolleyball.store. And here's the deal, guys. We're so damn close to 2 milestones right now on Volleyball Source. First and foremost, the Discord, we are like within 20 people, I think, of cracking 1,000 people on the Discord, and that would be massive. And I think we're within 30 people of cracking 10,000 on the YouTube channel, which would also be massive. So we're going to drop, if once we hit those benchmarks, we're going to drop a sale for both of those to celebrate. So make sure you share the Discord, and it has to hit with both. It's once both hit, it's going to hit within like the next week. I'm hoping once that hits, we'll drop a sale on that volleyball store, so you can get all of your 9x9 merch, your spicy volleyball merch, like Rob is wearing the baseball tee right there, and everything else. So head over to that volleyball.store to check it out.
Yep, and especially help us get to those milestones. 1,000 people in the Discord would be huge. Even more importantly, 10,000 YouTube subscribers is a very big milestone, especially with the history of the Volleyball Source YouTube channel, to say the least. So that would be big for us. And I'm with you, Everett. I especially with this weekend coming up, which we'll talk about at the last bit of the show. I think we're about to see a spike in probably both things. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Everett. Last Wednesday, January 11th, was some of the most fun I've ever had watching volleyball. And here's a big reason why. We previewed it on Tuesday night's show. Our boy Blair Lambert in the chat, who is a legend and has been watching volleyball for longer than we've been alive, he said,
calling him out like that.
Despite the hype, he said, Modena is going to 3-0 Lüneburg. And he then said in the Discord that he has never been happier to be wrong. What a match for a starting lineup of 6 North Americans with one of the best crowds I've seen all year, if not this decade. Lüneburg beats Modena 3-2 at home in the CEV Cup in an absolute barn burner. What a match for the out-of-system boys, for all 3 Canadian middles, for Jordan Ewert and Colton Cowell and Lucas Massa, obviously the one German in that starting lineup holding it down. This match was absolutely insane. This and Halkbank versus Avierce going on at the exact same time, which we'll talk about in a minute, was some of the most fun I've had watching volleyball all year. Had both screens going. It was absolutely electric. They both went 5. The good guys won both games. And Lüneburg beating Modena might be the upset of the year in all of volleyball.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And we've got Matt Buffum coming in saying that they should have won in 3, and he's not necessarily wrong.
It's not wrong. They definitely should have won the second.
They had chances out there. They should have won. Was it the second or third where Colwell? No, that was the third where Colton Colwell called his own touch to tie the game up.
Ended up winning anyway. But yeah, they absolutely should have won the second set. And it was crazy because as we heard, I mean, Everett, both you and I listened to the Out of System Boys podcast earlier today, where
which is a must listen to. I think if you're interested in it at all, if you watch the game, you didn't watch the game, you have to listen to that podcast. They break it down so well.
And I think that they were just trying to sugarcoat some of the parts of this match, both that match and then the Halkbank match that were rougher around the edges that they didn't want to get into. We're going to get into them. We are going to get into them. First of all, Modena did not take Lüneburg seriously. That much is extremely clear. They did not scout. They did not plan on playing the starters. They started a joke of a lineup, and sure enough, Lüneburg came out, punched him in the mouth in the first set, and brought Irvin Ingapet in off the bench late in set 1, at which point it was basically already too late for Modena. So great sign there if you're Lüneburg. You take advantage of a team that is sleeping on you. But then the rest of the match got even more interesting. It got really, really chippy. In the 8th finals of CEV Cup, there is no challenge system in play. And in international volleyball the last 5 years, we've really gotten spoiled by the challenge system, so much so that we've kind of forgotten what it's like when everything isn't immediately reviewable. And boy, did that create some drama.
It was bad at times.
Yeah,
and I mean, Joe broke it down pretty well in the Out of System podcast, but you could tell why both teams were getting heated. It was just the perfect boiling pot of everything going on. Like, that new Lüneburg Stadium is beautiful. You have awesome. The 2 levels. It was standing room only. People were loud. They have the German clackers going off in between every point. Bruno's whining. Engapeth is whining. You know, neither of them looking good. You got Jordan Snitcher blocking them all over the place. Joe Worsley running that offense just beautifully. Man, Jordan Ewert. How much can you say about this?
What a clinic!
How is he not? When I watch what Jordan Ewert did against Modena and Hershing this weekend, compared to Cody Kessel, who, while starting for Berlin, loses to Gießen. They got 3 downed by Gießen, which we're going to talk about in a little bit too. How is Cody Kessel wearing a Team USA jersey and Jordan Ewert is sniffing the gym? I'm not even American. I shouldn't even be upset about this like this. But man, Jordan Ewert, time and time again, looks so good. Spera, watch a little bit of international volleyball, please, and give him a shot.
Well, apparently he doesn't. He didn't know who Kamil Semeniuk was going into last summer. That's a
Best thing I've ever heard.
different conversation. Jordan Ewert balled out, but so did Colton Cowell. I got to give him a huge amount of credit. There was one ridiculous scramble play where Joe like kind of falling, bump set a ball like right on the net, and Cowell out of absolutely nowhere like ripped the ball 4-4 inside 10 feet, inside two gigantic blockers. It's like a straight up bounce ball and out of system situation out of nowhere. That was so hype. Jordan Schnitzer put on a blocking clinic, especially one huge one late on Adis Lagumja in the 5th. I mean, this match was absolutely amazing, and it had a little bit of everything. And apparently there were some words said after the match in the quote unquote handshake lines that weren't really very handshaking or sportsmanlike. Everett, what have you heard that we can share about some of the drama going on during and after this match?
The fact that Bruno is going after bench players and saying that their celebrations are disrespectful. Get over yourself, Bruno. Just win the game. You should win the game.
Actually
win the
prepare.
Game.
Take them seriously. Not that's disrespectful.
And don't just whine about it when things don't go about your way. I was as one of the Canadian guys told me after the games, they were disappointed in the way that Modena acted. Right? These guys, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to play some of their heroes. Right, we've grown up, like especially guys who are just joining these teams now. They've grown up watching Bruno win Olympics, Engapeth win Olympics, win World Leagues, win VNL titles, World Championships, whatever it is, and to go out there and act that way just because you guys aren't on your best that day is absolutely terrible. Calling out a bench player, like a guy who wasn't even in the game, in the handshake line, have a little bit of class. Like it kind of hurts me because Bruno's someone that I respect so much. I won't lie. I kind of expect that type of attitude from Engapeth just because
totally.
It's Engapeth.
He's an absolute loser. He's probably the worst sport in all of volleyball. When the first thing doesn't go his way, he pouts the rest of the game and gets stuff blocked 7 times against the German team. I mean, his attitude problems are well known, but I did not expect this out of Bruno. I agree.
I mean,
Gianni, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
what is this guy doing? Talking. What did he say to Pierzashenko that you were talking about?
Yeah, apparently he told Pierzashenko that he was a disgrace to all of Canada because he didn't call his block touches, and yet you can if you go to the Out of System podcast, you clearly hear about Engapeth not calling his block touches. It's this kind of stuff that I absolutely hate. And you know what? We say we don't really expect it from Bruno, but how many times have we seen it from Bruno? I remember a specific Italian ref telling me back in 2012 when World League was in Canada, and the FIVB had basically told that you do not card Bernardino, who was Bruno's dad, of course, coaching Brazil at the time. And I think that's just an extension. And I mean, hey, you know what we've seen in North American sports? LeBron gets the call, right? LeBron is able to get that call. The same thing with Michael Jordan. And you do have to have some of that respect for those legendary players. But you know what? If you're going to lose, take it like a man. Don't go whining about it.
Totally. And they did not take this loss like a man, like men, from what it sounded like on the Modena side. I mean, Gianni's complaining, Bruno's complaining, Engapeth's complaining. Nobody's fault but their own. They slept on a good team and got punched in the mouth on the road in one of my favorite matches that I've watched this year. So it was so good to see these kids that we know personally. Like I know Joe and Gage, like all 3 of the Canadian middles. And I met obviously Pierce, and I think I met Xander briefly over the summer. Those guys deserve it. Those guys had a huge opportunity to play against some of their heroes, like you said. They made the most of it. It was the biggest win in Lüneburg's club history by far. Our guy Stefan Hubner, their head coach, huge congratulations to him. Well deserved, and I really, really, really hope that in the return leg, Lüneburg, when they go to Modena in a couple weeks, they don't just get destroyed. And I think that's very possible. Even if that does happen, the winning that match at home will never be forgotten. But Modena, it would be in Modena's best interest to start the next match as pissed off as they finished the last one.
Yeah, there's 2 things I want to talk about. First and foremost, that Paolo Panini is going to be rocking.
Good,
right?
Better,
and it better.
Absolutely.
Take them seriously because remember what happened to Modena in last year's CEV Cup.
That's right.
Right, losing to Tools in this exact same situation in the exact same round, right? And they would have basically put them on to the finals because Zenit Kazan was kicked out because of other reasons at that point, right? So, you know what? Modena has a lot to play for, and I do think that there's not a lot of pressure on the Lüneburg side of things, right? But it's so clear to me that Modena did no preparation for this match. If you had just gone back a few matches, like even 1 month back of their matches, you would have seen that they've pushed Berlin and Friedrichshafen so hard, and this was a tough team to play against. But even Joe was talking about it in their podcast. I don't think that's going to happen the same way around in the second round playing at Modena. I would be shocked if that would.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that next match, Modena will understand what they need to do to be prepared to win, to advance in that tournament. But we've also seen Modena sleepwalk in CEV Cup before, thinking that they're better than it, thinking that they're going to get through no problem. And that's exactly what we saw last year. So I'm definitely rooting for Lüneburg. I think we all are. Huge congratulations to them again on that win. And the next match we got to talk about was the one happening at the exact same time in an even bigger competition, an arguably even more ridiculous match, almost a 3-hour barn burner in Turkey. Halkbank Ankara beats Zavierce 19-17 in the fifth. And I'm not going to show the clip of Micah Ma'a stuff blocking Uros Kovacevic on match point because CEV will take the video down. But oh my goodness, what a visceral release of pure energy we saw from Micah as soon as he won that match. That was absolutely amazing. MVP well deserved. This was one of the craziest matches of the year. Now this is a Champions League game. They have replay. They have challenges. The officials completely lost control of this game. And I talk about this in sports a lot, more sports than just volleyball, about how officiating impacts games. Officiating impacts volleyball less than any other major sport on earth. And still, really their only job is to keep the game under control, especially when you have replay to rely on. But somehow they completely lost control of this Halkbank versus Zavierce game. There were red cards handed out, I think, to both teams. There were replays that were just clueless. There were calls by the officials that made no sense. And Micah talked about a little bit about it in the Out of System podcast. But sure enough, at the very, very end of it all, just a huge release as Ma'a stuff blocks Kovacevic at 19-17 in the fifth. This match was ridiculous. It was incredibly fun to watch this and Lüneburg side by side. And again, like I said, the good guys won both games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Micah Ma'a hit it on the head in the Out of System podcast when talking about that. You can give a card in that situation, but if a player is reacting to your bad call,
yes,
right, that is completely wrong, and
yes,
that you admit that is wrong and you overturn, it shouldn't be a red card. It should just be a yellow, because if you can't keep it up to the game, right, you need to monitor it better, because that's what basically gave Zavierce the set in that one. But still, it was a banger of a match. It basically puts Halkbank in a good position to take a pool, because they have to play Hebar in the final week next week. Zavierce has to go and play Berlin at Berlin. So man, anything could happen. That's the most volatile pool, and it got even worse, and I love it.
Totally. It was so much fun to watch. Yeah, Zavierce now basically a shoe-in to win the pool. Hebar's got really nothing to play for. They did just get Giulio Sabi from the Chinese league for what it's worth, but I think that might even be a step down from Simon Hirsch, who they had before. So I think Ankara is going to win that pool. And remember, Berlin, last leg, beat Zavierce in Poland. So that could go literally any way.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, that Berlin stadium, is that Max Schmeling Hall, can get raucous. If they get a good crowd out there, and they rest the boys this weekend, they basically gave up a loss to Gießen. My boy Jory Mantha went off. It was awesome to see. But the Berlin boys are rested. They're ready to go. And if they can pull it off, what's the standings at in that pool? Let's pull that up.
Well, we're gonna talk a lot more about Champions League, because I think we're still locking down the details, but I think we'll have a dedicated show tomorrow only to men's Champions League, where we look at all the different situations in the pool standings headed in to week 6, which is not this week but next week, where it's the last round of the fourth round of the main round, where we decide who advances. So stick around. We'll let you know details about that. We think that we're going to get to do a main dedicated show on Champions League tomorrow, where we talk about all this.
Is
So I
it?
think
Are we gonna have a certain special guest?
I think we very well may. Yeah,
Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
I think we very
All
well
right.
may.
Well,
So
then I had also planned a podcast for tomorrow, so I'll move that to Thursday
hey,
with
perfect.
the only Canadian in the Plus Liga. So that'll be a fun one.
Is that the kid who's backing up Jake Haynes on Bielsko Biała?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I hope that show goes well, and I hope that kid doesn't get relegated. But that's not it's not looking so good right now. All right,
Hey,
so
you know what?
we'll talk a lot more about men's Champions League on the dedicated show tomorrow. Stick around for the schedule on that. But let's talk about women's, because the women's Champions League they had their week 3 last week, which is when we kind of expect matches to get good, and then they're in the middle of week 4 right now. So they're trying to play catch up against the men's. And sure enough, Everett, we had a couple upsets in week 3. Fenerbahce lost again. 2 weeks in a row, they're now in 3rd in their pool in Champions League, in serious danger of not making it out. This time they lose to Łódź in 4. They need Melissa Vargas so bad.
Yeah, they really, because like not only did they lose in Champions League, but they got 3 donged hard by Exhausted this weekend in the SuperLega.
We'll talk about that in a second.
We can touch on in a second too. But this is a team that's floundering, and they need a little bit of firepower. Yes, they're going to be getting Melissa Vargas, but is it too little, too late? I don't know.
Very possibly. I mean, they've dug themselves a significant hole in Champions League. Like we were talking about their pool. What is it? Pool B, maybe? D. Thank you.
Yeah.
The only pool with 3 competitive teams with Stuttgart, Łódź, and Fenerbahce lost both of them. They're now 1 and 2. The best place they can finish is 4 and 2. That will probably be good enough for 2nd at best. So they've really got to turn it around. Probably needing 3 and 0 the rest of the way. And the other crazy upset in Women's Champions League, we alluded to it earlier, Malonza losing to a French team. However, it's not really a French team. It's basically a Russian team. 97% of the points scored by Le Canet in their 5-set win over Malonza last week were by Russian players.
I've obviously been watching Emily in Paris on Netflix because his French was quite good right there. But yeah, you're not wrong. Just no one could have seen this coming. But then when you look at how this French team is made up with mostly Russian players, it does kind of make sense. Let's see here. 26 points for Vida Akimova, 19 for Anna Kitikova, 15 for Kocheruna, and 15 for Popova. Like basically, you've got little Moscow in France. Is that allowed? Because I know that in our Discord they were talking about how there's like a Turkish team that was like they had a Ukrainian player and a Russian player. And basically, the Ukrainian Federation came on, even though they signed the Ukrainian player later. They came in and said that you need to take out this Russian player, and eventually ended the Ukrainian player like leaving the team.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So this is an interesting situation where there's like a mass exodus of Russian players from the Russian Superliga, and now they're going for France.
Well, I mean, good for them. It makes sense for the French league. There's no foreigner limit. They can basically make pretty much Russian super teams and get around that ban of CV competition. But on the Malonza side, this was just another absolute egg that they laid. I don't understand what they're doing with their lineup. I know that somebody pointed out in the chat earlier that Miriam Silla is hurt, but they've still got to be better than this. Why is Jordan Larson not playing? Why aren't you playing in her till the 5th set? Who is Adina Begic? Who is that? Why is Magdalena Stisiak not playing when Jordan Thompson's having a terrible game? What is going on here?
Like, to me, Marco Gaspari is in the same level of Stoichev at this point. Like start figuring it out, or you're going to get canned, because it's just not looking good. Also, I do kind of feel like the way this Monza team was put together is that like the owner was looking at a bunch of puzzles and was just like, I'm going to make a puzzle off of all of the nicest pieces, not because they fit together in any way, shape, or form, but just because they're pretty, right? And of course, when I say pretty here, I mean that they're good athletes. I'm not talking about their physical appearance. We would never, just desensitize our female athletes like that. But like, honest, you have such an embarrassment of riches and you can't beat a French team?
Yeah, come on.
Figure it out, Malonza. Figure it out, Gaspari.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
I love figuring it out. So this week in Champions League, it's week 4. Now we're getting the rematches. There were a couple matches earlier today. I think Novara and who else won today? Novara won, no problem. Zhezhov won, no problem. Great, good for them. I don't really see that many other matches this week that are good, with the exception of Fenerbahce versus Stuttgart, which Stuttgart won last time around. But now Melissa Vargas is there for yet another time. She has come back to join Fenerbahce after the Chinese League season. So I would hope, for Fenerbahce's sake, that she suits up tomorrow. My match is 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, Wednesday, a Fenerbahce versus Stuttgart. So maybe Vargas comes in and plays. Maybe she helps. Other than that, I don't see anything very good this week in Women's Champions League.
Yeah, that match is actually going to be on YouTube for free
nice.
and live. So if you guys want to watch that one over, you can head over to volleyballsource.ca. There's a nice little post there with a link with all of the live streams from this week.
Yeah,
all of the free ones.
Huge shout out to our friend Joelle. She's kind of overhauled the Volleyball Source website, so there's a lot more on there. There's a lot of links to live streams. They're embedded in the website. It's way easier to find them. So if you're not regularly looking at volleyballsource.ca, start. It's really been great to have Joe help us out with that.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So
only up from here.
Right. Speaking of Fenerbahce, we've talked about it. We've hyped this match up, actually, Everett, for several weeks. We really wanted to see Fenerbahce versus Eczacıbaşı in the Turkish league. Not even close. Not even close. What were these set scores? 18, 13, 19. Get out of here. Hour and a shower.
I tuned into this one because it was live on YouTube. It was great. I was just on YouTube early Saturday morning. I was like, oh, sick. Eczacıbaşı versus Fenerbahce. This is gonna be a game. Settle in. I turn it on, and within like 10 minutes, I was like, "This is not worth watching."
No.
It wasn't even a romp. It was just an absolute demolition. It was like Thanos snapped his finger, and half of Fenerbahce's soul was just absolutely ripped out. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Lazareva was the only decent one out there with 13 points. Macris didn't even play for Fenerbahce.
Yeah, their setter position is weird. They've got 2 Brazilian setters, and they can't really figure out which one of them is going to start. That doesn't make sense.
Irina Fedoretseva was 6 for 20 with a 0% efficiency. And somebody was like, "Where's Fedoretseva in your top 10s?" I mean, hey, you're not on the national team scale at all, and you're basically the women's Addis Lagumgia of being good in the first half and not good in the second half. So yeah, it's not looking good for Fenerbahce right now. They are tanking hard for Rona style.
I know that Ada Erdem is their heart and soul. She's been sick. She hasn't played, but she's a middle. You've still got to play well if you're missing a middle, but they get Melissa Vargas. We'll see if they can rescue things. Again, they've got Champions League tomorrow. And my only other takeaway from this is how scary Eczacıbaşı can be when Hande Baladin plays well. And she was awesome, 9 for 15.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with Turkey, right? When Hande Baladin is good, they're great. When she's not so good and you have to rely on just your right side, whether it's Karakurt or Boskovic, it's not so good. So I still think Eczacıbaşı is a team that can make impact both in the SuperLega, long term. Halkbank hasn't looked good and is still a potential candidate to win the Champions League. So I'm going to be very interested to watch this team. I have no hope in Fenerbahce right now.
No,
none. Even when you bring in Melissa Vargas, I don't know if they're going to be able to change things quite quickly.
Somebody puts in the chat, you should look at Eczacıbaşı's set ratio, 42-1. Oh my God. They've dropped 1 set all year. It's crazy. Now they've only played Halkbank once. But still, that is completely insane. Eczacıbaşı does play THY this week, and THY is good. So we'll see what happens there. When do they play
Van Rijk again? So actually, THY just also picked up the Brazilian coach. Why am I blanking on his name? Moving on from Marcelo Abondanza, which is an absolute huge pickup. So I'm interested to see what they're going to be able to do with Kira Van Rijk and the rest of the THY team.
Also, our girl Logan Eggleston had a great debut with Galatasaray, so she's there now.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Good point.
Yep, good stuff.
How'd you do?
She was great. I can't remember the scoring, but I remember seeing that her numbers were good. So good for her. All right, let's move on. A couple other things before we have some kind of big news to end the show. One is we want to spotlight the French League. We don't do this very much, but my boy Kyle Ensing dropped a banger for Saint-Nazaire, a 3-1 win over Chaumont, and 20 points. And he had an awesome match. I forgot. I had the stats up earlier. I don't have them up right now, but he was great. It's good to see him playing in a real league. It's not Israel. Good for Kyle.
And I mean, hey, that's huge for the Saint-Nazaire team as well, because they were in French League B last year.
Right.
Like this is a team that is always on the cusp. Like sometimes they're in Liga, sometimes they're in League B. And not only do you have Saint-Nazaire, Kyle Ensing, who was real good with this.
Quinn Isaacson.
20 points. You've got Quinn Isaacson, who I thought he was one of the best parts of that American team, the B team that I saw in Gatineau this past summer. I loved watching him play, and I love that he's been having an immediate impact for this team. And as you said, love seeing Kyle Ensing playing in a non-Mickey Mouse league.
Yeah, Saint-Nazaire in third right now, 35 points behind Toulouse, who's in first with 39. Chaumont is good. They have two Americans, Mike Marshman and Pat Gassman. They're in fourth. How are some of the French guys doing? I know Tourcoing isn't good as good as they used to be at the beginning of the year. What are the Canadians been up to?
Yeah, Tourcoing is led by you got three Canadians. They started the season really, really hot, and they've kind of cooled off this recently. They did get a nice 3-0 win over Cambrai this weekend. The other one to look out is Set sitting down there in ninth place. That's where Derek Epp is playing. And they lost to Nantes Rézé, who are currently in second place right now.
Yeah, the LNV is good. There's never like a favorite, and then there's the curse of literally whoever wins the French league is terrible the following year. So that seems to always happen.
I don't think it happened as this much, because who was it? It was Toulouse that won the French league last year, and they're back in first.
Year?
Okay, Cambrai was like a top 4 team.
Montpellier won last year. I think Toulouse choked in the finals, and Montpellier.
Oh, you're right.
So it is kind of holding true, and obviously Caen won it 2 years ago, and then they got relegated last year.
Yeah,
so.
they did. Cambrai was a top 4 team, and they're in last place right now. They're 2-14 with only 7 points. Montpellier did start the season really, really poorly, but they've brought things back up, and now they're back into the playoff picture at an even 500.
Danny Deminico.
Let's go, my boy.
Moving from the French league to the German league. We talked about this, Everett, but Berlin plays the bench against Gießen and gets 3-dogged. What's going on there?
That one, you know what? It was the bashing of two storms. On one side, you had Berlin that just didn't look good. They couldn't really get together. They had the bench guys. Obviously, they're resting up the guys for the big matchup against Zawiecki in the Champions League. But Gießen was rolling. Max Guntor was absolutely dominant in the middle. He was really big. And then, of course, my boy Jory Mantha was also looking awesome. And you know what? It was just an entertaining game to watch all around. Of course, as always, you got to give a big shout out to the Spawn 10/Baus House guys who straight up, like, I so badly want to be able to speak German, because after the game's done or in between, they go back to the studio. They have the two guys who are watching everything, and they talk about it a little thing. They've got graphics going on. They've got active stats. The only thing I wish they did is I wish they used the baseline angle. Like, you guys are volleyball people. You should know this. Get with the program along with us. You guys are outlaws. We're outlaws. Let's be a cohesive unit and work together on this. But yeah, it was just an absolute massive win. It's a huge win just in the standings, because Gießen is one of the better teams. So it kind of puts them up closer, brings Berlin down a little bit. And man, the Bundesliga is so much fun right now. Just so much fun with Lüneburg doing as well as they are, and now Gießen getting on the board. It's just a blast.
Yep. Also, always free to watch at twitch.tv/SpawnTent, and phenomenal broadcasts. So good for the German league. Let's bring it back to stateside, shall we? Let's talk about VLA. Let's talk about VLA. We had an awesome weekend. And if you want to watch volleyball from the baseline, look no further than the Volleyball League of America. Season kicked off.
I tuned in.
Yeah, I know you watched some games. It was great. A phenomenal weekend to kick off the VLA season in the Central Division. Nobody went winless. Nobody went undefeated. And we had 3 5-setters in 6 matches. So there were some bangers. Very, very fun. Swede picked up their first win as a tier 1 team with a giant like stuff block on 15-14 in the 5th against their crosstown rivals. That's awesome. Team Pineapple actually won the weekend, like I predicted on Around the VLA. That was a Hail Mary, and that came true.
It did seem to me like Team Pineapple has upgraded a little bit.
Yeah, I had Loy Ball on the broadcast really briefly, and he's like, "Yeah, we got some more depth. We got guys in the gym more often, and they are having more fun, and they're just more excited about playing than they've been the last couple of years."
Because I think what I was really liking to see is that when I would watch the VLA in the past, the tier 1 teams just seemed to me like a little bit older, which I get. They're the older teams that have been established and they have the bit older rosters, but you got all these young upstart tier 2 teams. So I love seeing that these tier 1 teams are feeling threatened and rebolstering their roster, because I was impressed by the level. I enjoyed watching it on Saturday and a little bit on Sunday too. And yeah, it was really good. Price was fantastic for Team Pineapple. And in the first one, I know Iceman took that one, but yeah, I was stoked to be watching it.
Yeah, it's good ball. It really is. It's fun to watch. And so I did a live demo last week on our talk show Around the VLA. We do that on the VLA YouTube channel, just kind of talk about what's going on in the league. We have a new partner for the league called Ball Time. It's this amazing, like, AI-based volleyball video analysis app, and basically you put a video into it and it automatically creates for you a volleyball source style highlight video where it just takes out all the breaks, and then you literally have clip by clip with all the breaks removed, and you can add them to a highlight video, including you can sort by the type of action. You can sort by spikes, you can sort by serves, you can sort by blocks. It's ridiculous. So that will enable me and the VLA guys to create basically a volleyball source style highlight video from every single game really, really easily. So check that out. Volleyball League of America YouTube channel. You'll get like a 15-minute video of every play from the match that wasn't a service error. So check that out if you couldn't catch them live.
Awesome. How do I use this?
We can talk about getting you access to this thing, because
like that would like bring down my editing time by so much.
I know, it's amazing. It really is amazing. Shout out to Balltime. Balltime.com is the website. All right, Everett, last but not least, we've got some kind of exciting news. This was flying under the radar until we kind of put some things together, but there's a very big event coming up this weekend. And you may have noticed there's been a little bit of an increase in presence on the Volleyball Source channel of university level coverage, both NCAA and U Sports, and Everett's been at a couple of events. We are very excited because this weekend is a big event. It's the second First Point Collegiate Challenge. They got the 4 great NCAA teams to Austin, Texas last year. Hawaii was there. They wanted to win a national championship. This year, bigger and better. Four much better teams top to bottom. They've got Penn State, Stanford, Pepperdine, and Lewis playing 4 matches total Friday and Saturday this weekend in Austin, Texas. And Everett and I will be there on site. So
the boys, we're getting the band back together. Let's go.
Band back together. We're our first time seeing each other since VNL in Ottawa. We will be there on site. So we're flying in Friday morning. We're going to be there for all 4 of the matches. We will be doing very much like VNL style live pre and post game shows from the venue. We will be interviewing the players. We'll be interviewing the coaches. It will be absolutely electric. And I think we're going to grab a whole lot of new Volleyball Source fans who are watching the event and will love the increased coverage of the First Point Collegiate Challenge, because it is an increasingly big event. And we can talk about the how you can watch it on stream, because it's actually pretty big news. But I'm just really stoked to be there. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Unfortunately, we can't do any highlights because Volleyball World is going to be doing it. So there's going to be no baseline highlights, but we're still going to be there. We're going to be doing some podcasts, getting some nice little clips for Instagram and TikTok, like eggnog, TikTok and Reels. And I think it's just going to be a good time. Also, we want you guys to give us some questions to answer, because Friday night, Rob and I, if you remember from VNL, on the Saturday night, we did a drunken podcast that a lot of people have enjoyed. Rob and I are going to be doing something similar. We're going to be making a drinking game out of your questions. This video is going to be offered to only members only. We're going to start expanding our members only video content now that, it's a little bit more established. So you're going to have to join our membership. It's only $5 a month to become a Volleyball Source member, but we want to answer some of your questions. We're going to make it into a drinking game on Friday night.
And
live
this is like
on
all
this
bets
channel.
are off, like uncensored, like beers, like the whole thing. We did it with Dan at VNL, like Everett said last year. It was very, very fun.
Oh, we're going to do
very much
shots too.
Love it. A different nature of a Q&A than we do most of the time on the 9x9. So we will make this worth your YouTube membership if you're interested in picking one up. So
this video alone will be worth it for the
100%.
next month. So make sure to pick that up. It'll be uploaded and available. But make sure you give us your questions, whether it's in the chat here. If you have any questions, whether it's about international volleyball, like who do we think the worst coach is? I mean, I don't think you need us to be drunk to answer that one. Any questions at all, we're going to be drinking and answering your questions. So put them in the chat, comment on the video afterwards.
Put them in the comments after the video.
Yeah, put them in the comments after the video. What do you want to know from us? And
or in the podcast channel of the Discord would be a good one. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll just kind of turn the camera on, put microphones and beers in our hands, and just kind of see where it goes. So that'll be really fun. But I want to talk a little more about this event. And now I'm going into it. I got to be honest. I don't follow NCAA men's as much as I used to until like the playoffs come around. Then I really get a pulse on how all the teams really are. But like when I was in college, I was watching it all the time, but now I'm really way more engaged in the international ball. So I'm going in a little bit blind. I know some of the big players, obviously, on all four of the teams, but I'm really excited to learn more about these four teams and kind of about the NCAA landscape being down there. We're going to talk to a lot of the players. We're going to talk to a lot of the coaches. We're really going to learn a lot about the NCAA men's game as we kind of kick off the regular season the next couple of weeks. But more importantly, Everett, we've learned a lot about this event in the last couple of weeks. We've gotten to talk to a couple of the people down in Austin that are organizing it. I am blown away by how much Volleyball World has invested into the First Point Collegiate Challenge and how much oversight they have. They are completely controlling the broadcast, so the live stream for all four matches will be on Volleyball World TV. And there's actually a code. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. If you don't already have a Volleyball World TV subscription, there's a code FPCC1, all caps, that can get you a month for free. So I'll put that in the chat in just a second.
Yeah, make sure you sign that on. You get to listen to Matt Prosser all weekend.
Oh God, it's Salima Rockwell, Matt Prosser. I almost broke my computer when I heard that news. But I can't believe that Volleyball World is flying people over from Europe to do the broadcasts for an NCAA men's collegiate event. I can't believe they even know that NCAA volleyball is a thing.
Well, I mean, we know how the thing. They kind of told them in preparations for the women's VNL finals that are going to be happening in Arlington, Texas, a little bit later in the year, right? But you know what? I'm not that surprised because I quite suspect that Volleyball World is a little bit worried about the lack of stuff going on in North America and the lack of numbers. Which,
well, good.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you know what? Maybe we're going to start getting some better broadcasts. The Japanese broadcasts have 2 commentators.
Come on, really?
Yeah. When you sign on to what it's like either the Milano games or the Padova games, there's 2 Japanese commentators for those matches.
That's
now,
ridiculous.
Rob, they'll be between, like, you and I both know the reason why. 2 guesses why there's not for the English ones. And but that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah. I do like it. It makes perfect sense to me that Volleyball World wants to try to increase their viewership in North America, especially with the VNL finals coming here. And I think this is going to be the perfect opportunity because there's such a lack of volleyball in Texas when Texas volleyball isn't happening, and they just won the national championship. You got to continue that momentum.
Agreed. And which they're basically taking the page out of the VLA's book and doing this event. They're going to have 4 NCAA teams in a convention center that's being shared with a juniors event. So there's a gigantic girls and I think boys as well. I think there's both girls and boys juniors play going on. They're running a clinic for youth players on Thursday. It's a very big event. It was really well attended last year, and now they've brought in even better teams top to bottom. So I'm looking forward to this. All the streams on Volleyball World TV. But here on Volleyball Source, we will be there on site. We'll be doing shows Friday night, Saturday, probably morning and evening. And
honestly, I'm mostly just stoked to hang out with you.
I'm stoked to hang out with you too. I've also never been to
Like,
Austin. I think it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, me too. I almost wish that we had gone in like a day before, like stay a day later to see some things. But I'm going to be out real early the next morning. So
Yeah, can't win them all. Maybe we can. I guess Saturday morning, because I think the games are. I can't remember when the games.
yeah,
are.
it's like 4 and 7.
Well, we can watch SuperLega together on Saturday morning. That'll be fun.
Oh, we should do a live stream.
Maybe we could.
All right, members
Maybe.
member only live stream.
That's a great idea. So we will be super active this weekend, both here on YouTube, obviously, but Instagram at Volleyball Source at 9x9 Volleyball. It's been really active lately. My personal Instagram at rstclair1. I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff. So we will be there on site in Austin starting Friday morning, getting all sorts of good stuff. The only thing that we can't do is film the matches because Volleyball World owns all the rights to that, but we'll do everything else that we can. And so follow us here on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and you'll get a lot of good NCAA men's content. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Stoked to hang out with you. Stoked to be in the sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be awesome. Let's get it going.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you this weekend live from Austin talking about NCAA men's, but we will fly back to our respective home streaming setups and be right back here next Tuesday, same time, same place for the 9x9. So you know where to find us, and thanks for watching. It's been a great week.
Real quick, what time tomorrow for is it still up in the air?
Yeah, we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Okay.
Me and probably a special guest for tomorrow, Champions League men's. So tune in for that. We'll let you know in the Discord what time that stream will go live. But if you want to really dive into all the standings and all the possibilities of Champions League men's heading into the last week, definitely tune in tomorrow here on Volleyball Source.
Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. Make sure you remember, once we hit 1,000 people in the Discord, 10,000 people here on the channel, let's just real quick see how many we are on YouTube. Why am I?
I've got the wrong.
990. We're 10 people away. 10 people away from hitting 10,000.
Yeah, literally 9990 subscribers on YouTube. That's crazy.
Which is pretty crazy considering, the history of it all. And then let's head over to the Discord. What are we looking at for numbers in the Discord?
I don't know how to check numbers in the Discord.
You just gotta kind of figure it out. There's 107 online, and there's 177 offline.
I don't want to do math. I know Monty keeps track. He'll tell us when we hit 1,000.
So that's we're 14 people away on the Discord.
So close. Any of your volleyball friends that don't already follow us, get them in the Discord. Get them here to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll drop a sale on that volleyball.store.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. There's going to be a lot of content here on Volleyball Source this week, so make sure you stay tuned, join the Discord, follow this channel. You guys have a great week. Rob, I'll see you Friday.
See you Friday, buddy. Can't wait.